Would you like to know what you have to do to be able to move money between Australia and South Africa? And also that other thing that always is at the back of your mind, but you never get to do it, to financially immigrate? Well then, keep watching.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Oh, we are all looking for adventure.
Hi there, and welcome back to today's video. In today's episode, we are talking to Tanya van Westhuizen from Secure FX. She is an expert in her field, and she is bringing us all the information that we need to know to be able to move money between South Africa and Australia, essentially pretty much most other countries, and also what tax implications are involved, what you need to do to financially immigrate, and things like if you've been left money through inheritance, or you have a retirement annuity that you would like to, well, that has been paid out and you would like to move that funds over to Australia. What do you need to do and how long does it take in today's episode? But before I continue, I would like to know whether you would like to land a sponsored job in Australia, because my friend, I might just be able to help you. If you are in any of the following occupations like healthcare or mining, and in healthcare we're talking about nursing. If you're a nurse, you are in a good spot right now. If you're a doctor, an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist, if you are a boiler maker, an electrician, a diesel mechanic, a mining engineer, a geologist, and anything in between, pretty much for those kinds of occupations, then we need you stat. Go to www.quackaroo.com, and it was on this link. Go to the register your interest space on our website and upload your CV, because we have sponsored positions right at this point in time. So don't wait. Also worth mentioning that I am now a recognized NAATI translator, my friend. That's right. So I can translate your documents from Afrikaans to English. If you need anything for migration purposes where something is currently in Afrikaans and unfortunately it's not accepted in Australia that way, so I can do those translations for you. Get in touch, www.quackaroo.com, and send us a message through there, or email hello@quackaroo.com, and I can let you know what is involved in doing those translations for you. All right, let's hop into the episode. But just before we do that, have you subscribed? Have you subscribed? If not, hit that button, share the video with somebody that you love, because you want to share the love of helping them moving their money around. Who knows, you might just be on the receiving end of that. Anyway, let's hop into the video. Hi, and welcome back to an episode of Shamini TV. It is great to be online today to bring you this really very valuable episode with Tanya from Secure FX. Tanya, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on your show today.
It's my pleasure. All the way from Cape Town. So Tanya, please give us a little bit of an overview about Secure FX and what do you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start off with myself. Originally from Johannesburg, and I started in the banking industry straight after school. So I've always been mostly in the financial and foreign exchange side of things, banking side. And through the years, I've went overseas where I did some work there and then in the UK, and then after returning, I decided to go into foreign exchange and currency solutions for private individuals, to specialize specifically in that due to the need for South Africans to go to Australia, especially Australia, New Zealand, and the UK specifically, in about year 2010 to 2015, there was a big increase, and yeah, so I joined Secure FX. We are a female-owned boutique treasury advisory firm in Cape Town, and we come from a banking industry. We all have foreign exchange background. And yeah, so we've put together this company. We've been going for 4 years, and our big focus is on helping South Africans getting their money overseas, as well as helping them getting their families overseas and their businesses. So that's in a nutshell. So we're basically an intermediary for 3 various banks in SA that allows us to facilitate these transactions for clients. So ensuring we get the best possible rate, the lowest fees, and we've got 3 banks to negotiate with.
Okay, that's great. So if you have more than one, then you obviously have choices.
Yes, so you're not stuck also just with one bank and having to go. So the process with all the banks are very similar. Due to exchange control in SA, unfortunately, the regulations and the rules are quite strict, and it's governed by the Reserve Bank. But that being said, between the various banks, there's a lot of movement between the rates and how you can negotiate and how you can determine fees for clients, and just the turnaround as well. So the 3 various banks, we've got 3 various functions depending on the type of client that you have, who you are, and if you're looking at moving just your business overseas, or if you're looking to park your money overseas for growth, or if you and your whole family up and leave for Australia. So we try and cover whatever the client's needs may be, and we tailor something around that. So it's a very holistic approach compared to the old way of the banks doing it.
I do remember those days. That was about the time that I moved to Australia, when the banks were doing everything and nobody else was allowed to help you. So I'm really excited about these alternatives that we're getting, because it's getting actually much easier, although it's still not very easy, but it's getting just so much better to be able to move your money around. So I know there are a lot of legalities around the process, and the South African Reserve Bank plays a big role in this whole process. Can you explain to us a little bit about what the kind of amounts are that people are allowed to bring out, and what are the regulations in that?
Yes, sure. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception, and where individuals that are looking at moving their funds right at the beginning of the process struggle to find the right advice and be connected to the right people apart from your bank. So that would be SARS or a tax consultant and money transferring service business to try and get the funds out for you. So I think just to start off, so the Reserve Bank basically allows so from a South African resident point of view, so let me just focus on SA residents. That is still, either you're still in SA or you have left and you're living overseas. You could have been overseas for 20 years, but you are from SA originally. So you got an ID number at 16, you had an ID book, which most people throw away when they get on the plane and they go to Oz. So from that side, the Reserve Bank allows you R1 million per calendar year that you can take out to any country overseas. They don't really ask you too many questions where the money is going, and you don't need to apply to SARS for a tax clearance to move those funds. In excess of that, they'll give you a 10 million allowance, which is the foreign investment allowance. So basically the same rules as the 1 million, but we need to have a SARS application done for tax clearance for anything in excess of your 1 million that you took out on your discretionary allowance. So that is a process that SARS needs to handle. It's all done on e-filing, so it's actually quite simple. A client can do the application themselves if they are quite savvy with the e-filing platform and how that works. We also provide that service in-house, or if you have an accountant or a tax practitioner that deals with your, whether it's your personal or individual taxes and accounting, then they can do that application for you. So SARS would need to see where the money is from. That's the main application. So they would need to see source of funds and your proof of funds, and based on that, they will issue a clearance for said value. So in total, you've got 11 million per calendar year that you can take out of SA. In excess of that, there is another option. So the bank allows you to do a special application to the Reserve Bank. So that would be the same process. We would still go to SARS, and they would, so let's say, as an example, you have 20 million that you need to take out, and you cannot stagger it over 2 calendar years. It needs to go out for whatever the purpose may be, just to establish yourself, or to start up a new business, or to buy a business in Australia. SARS would then, on the same basis, issue a tax clearance for the 20 million, and then we would go to the Reserve Bank with that paperwork and the bank's application form to apply to send in excess of your 10 million, which also really isn't a very difficult process. It's almost similar to how South African Reserve Bank rubber stamp that's on there, and you have an authority for 1 year to basically take that money out. So then you have an excess of another 20 million that you're allowed to move. So there is room for, for individuals to take out quite large amounts if they don't want to do it over 1 or 2 or 3 years due to the calendar year limits. But then also in terms of donations, and if there is a deceased estate, the same rules apply in terms of the amounts that you're allowed to take out. Obviously, the paperwork is slightly different, but it really just depends on the source of your funds and when you need to take it out. So that's also when we come in and we try and just plan ahead, especially with someone that's going to Australia. It's a long process with the visa application and getting everything in place. So typically a client would, if you have 6 months to a year upfront to try and, ensure that you use your allowances before that calendar year is over. So if you need to then move out extra, then you don't have to wait another year. Or your alternative is then to go to the Reserve Bank through someone like ourselves, or through your own commercial bank in SA. But that would be difficult to do once you're based in Australia and trying to do those applications from your side with a bank in SA. They do make it a bit tricky if you're not in the country while you're doing these applications.
Yes.
So so that's for South Africans.
They don't seem to like it.
Yes, they don't make it easy at all.
It doesn't seem like they want us to take money out of South Africa.
Exactly.
You mentioned the source of the funds a few times. Why does the source of the funds matter? Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
So mainly from SARS, you would look at every cent that you earn or that you are taking out of the country or bringing into the country, there needs to be tax declared on that. Whether it's taxable or non-taxable. So when leaving, taking your funds out of SA, whether you're staying behind or you're going with your funds and you're moving overseas, SARS uses these applications also as a measure to make sure that specific capital gains tax were paid on any assets that were sold. So whether that be, and we're not going into crypto and alternative financial instruments, but whether it's crypto, if you are selling a business or you are selling your property, whatever the case may be, even if it's a Krugerrands that you are selling before you leave, there's capital gains payable, tax payable. So what SARS does, when you apply for the specific clearance, then they know, obviously, okay, this client is moving overseas or the funds are leaving SA. So they need to check and double check on their side that, first of all taxes payable on the funds have been paid or will be paid in the financial year coming. And then also to ensure that the funds are the client's funds. So with exchange control, what they try and block and what the regulation tries to do to block a third party from moving money out of SA under the name of someone else. So that could be a simple example. Someone needs 100,000 Rand. I can give them 100,000 Rand in SA, and it's a loan or a donation between me and the other individual. and then that individual takes the money offshore. But SARS wants to know about that transaction that took place before the client took the funds offshore. Again, so there would be, let's say, a donation tax of 20% on a transaction like that, or you can have someone that's won money in a casino and he's taken his cash and he got it into the bank and he's decided, you know, I've got a friend in the UK that needs some money. He needs some rands and I need some pounds. So let's swap. So that's also, so there's no recording of that Forex transaction. So everything needs to be recorded. So SARS is the first point of call basically for the Reserve Bank to make sure everything is recorded. The taxes are payable, all returns are up to date. You know, if there's anything outstanding from the client side in terms of his business, or even if the client is a member of a trust, a trustee, or a beneficiary, SARS looks at everything to make sure that they received everything that they are due basically before the money can go offshore. Because once it's offshore, also SARS, you know, there isn't really anything they can do about it. You can again, on the other side, you can buy a property with your funds, you can put it in an investment, you can go to a casino and blow it all there. It really is then out of the control of SARS. Yeah. So that's the long, yes. But they do, it's actually a very simple process. Again, SARS and in the news, they keep saying that the Reserve Bank is making it more difficult for South Africans to get their money out. But I think it's more just a case of once you know exactly what they need, and they do make it quite simple on their website as well, but obviously I can provide you with all that information. Once off, make sure your taxes are paid and just have someone that can assist you with the application just to get it through the process quicker. You know, so you've got a dedicated person at SARS looking at your application, and there's a dedicated person at the Reserve Bank looking at your application, instead of, again, just an application coming through the bank, which will be on a pile this high every day, and the client's best interest isn't really looked at.
Yes, no,
SARS is already difficult to work with.
Yes, we have, as you know, we personally in this household have been having some issues with that in the last few weeks. And I can concur that it's not the most user-friendly organization to be in.
Yes, very old school. Yeah.
But that's the system that we're working with. So we're just really thankful that you are here to help us navigate the landscape, Tanya. Thanks. And can you tell us a little bit about opening a bank or keeping a bank account open in South Africa before you leave, and opening a bank account overseas? And what are those processes or the pros and cons? Can you do it? Should you do it, or should you not?
Yes, yeah. So that's a very important point, which I think, first of all, I need to say, please don't close your bank accounts when you leave SA. Leave at least one bank account open, where you've got internet access and you have a bank card. The bank can change your cell number. Your South African bank can change your cell number to your overseas cell number, and you will be able to receive your OTPs and messages from the bank. So that's just also always the first thing I tell a client, apart from not throwing your SA ID book away, is leave an account open. You can, I know some of the fees, but that 100 or 200 rands that goes off the account, I'd say rather just leave a little bit behind or service that account from overseas. But once you close your account, it makes it very difficult for you to, if you need to apply for anything at the at SARS or the Reserve Bank, they always need a copy of your SA bank statement. So whether you're applying for another type of a tax directive or want to move money overseas, so if you are stuck in Oz and you've closed everything, you can imagine how difficult it is, you know, to open an account from that side online. It's becoming easier with the virtual banks. So the likes of Discovery and Access Bank, you can do applications for a transactional account on your phone. It takes a few weeks, but that's not really the way you want to do it. So leave your account open, and then when you use someone like ourselves, we can set up an account for a client irrelevant of where they are living in the world or how long they've been out of SA. So we can do that quite simple. It's very simple. The process is very fast. It takes less than a day for me to set up the account. So that would either then be with Investec, Access Bank, or Capitec, depending on what bank we decide to go with. But that's not a transactional account in the old sense of the word. So there's no bank cards, there's no internet banking. We purely use this account for clients to receive funds that they still have in SA after they've left. So let's say the sale of a property, or if there's a deceased estate and the executor needs to pay money to the beneficiary, they won't pay that money overseas. It needs to be paid into a locally held RAND account in the beneficiary's name. So we can set up the account, that's no problem, but you still need, right until the end, I'd say till you've done your financial immigration, if that's the route that the client would go, is to close off all business interest, then that account can be closed, and the account that we set up becomes then what they used to call the old blocked RAND account, which is now, they've just changed the name to an immigrant account, basically. So everything that you receive, that you may still receive in SA, and funds that you would like to send from Australia back to SA, if you need some money on the side to help a family member, or need to pay for some last utility bill that came 4 months late in the post, you can use that account to send and receive money into an SA, out of SA. So it's very convenient. So that's on the SA.
How does that then apply for the retirement annuities withdrawal for, pre and post retirement age? Is that the same process than when you have inherited money? Is it similar?
Yes, so that again, that same situation, that account will be used for, so either we would need to set it up as an immigrant account if the client is doing his immigration, pre-retirement immigration, to have his RS released in SA, then that money will flow through there. So the insurance company, the same as the executor, would need a local RAND-based account held in the name of the client in order to receive the RA funds, and then from there it can be remitted overseas. So the process of opening the immigrant account would be aligned with SARS and their immigration process, and for the insurance company then to actually release the RA prior to immigration. Alternatively, you would then need to wait for retirement. Then you don't need to go through the immigration process. Then you can just apply to have your RA paid out, and then from SA we can pay it to you overseas. But you can leave it in SA as well in this account indefinitely. There's no timeline. They issue the clearances. All are issued for 1 year, so that's a SARS basic clearance issued for 12 months. Yes, it's always a 12 months. So if you end up not sending everything during that year that is on that tax clearance that would indicate your RA, and let's say there's a deceased estate, you can just reapply the next year for a new immigration PIN, which takes about 3 weeks at SARS, if you're lucky, if they work fast. So that's about a month. But yes, so they don't limit, they don't block you on, once you get the clearance, you need to get it out ASAP. So you can use that time to also hedge your funds against the RAND, so you can time it well and try and get in when the RAND is at its strongest, hopefully. And then, yes, again, you can move that money back into SA through that same account. But in terms of the overseas bank accounts, I think it's much easier once you get there to Australia. I always advise to try and set up an account before you do go. So some of the banks do offer that facility in Australia online for migrants to set up the account, although it's not activated until you land in Oz and you go into a branch to do your identification. But at least you've got an account which can receive deposits and foreign transfers. So you can start sending money across, whether it be from your normal local commercial bank you may still have in SA, or let's say from someone such as ourselves through your Investec account. So as and when you see the rand is strong, you can start sending funds out. So by the time that you get to us, you know, you've got some dollar there that's already been hedged, and you know that you haven't exceeded your allowances, so you've given yourself some spread over the year.
Do they still pay out anything in cash in South Africa?
Say again?
Can you still withdraw a lot of money in cash in South Africa, like real cash?
Well, you can. You can, but the banks are yes, I mean everything. I mean also checkbooks, I mean that's been gone for quite a while. I actually had a client from America last week that received a check still in the post. They still work on a checking system. It's very, I know, I must say, from especially South Africa and Australia, we're quite far ahead in terms of banking and systems and, you know, fintech, yeah, specifically in our banking industry. So that was just funny for me. They will allow you, just on that note, they will allow you 20,000 Rand cash when you leave SA on the plane, that you don't need to declare, that you can have on in your wallet, as well as Kruger Rands. They will allow you 30,000 Rands worth of Kruger Rands you can take out of SA without having to declare anything. And then in excess of that, you would just need to do a customs declaration through your bank. We can do it through Investec as well. It just needs to go through an authorized dealer, just indicating the number of Kruger Rands and the estimated value at the time of you leaving the country.
Yeah.
That's something that people do ask. The same with jewelry as well. If if there's anything that you are taking extra that you are not have on yourself, then your bank there's a form that you complete and you indicate the details on there. They'll stamp it and you just take that with you when you go through customs, and off you go.
Now, you mentioned the opening of a bank account. If you were one of those people like I did, I closed all my bank affairs in South Africa when I left about 20 years ago. And I now suddenly want to receive retirement annuities, although I can't because I have no retirement annuities in South Africa. Or you might have received a donation or some inheritance from somebody, and you need to open that account. What do you need from me to be able to open a bank account then?
So luckily, again, for the fintech in SA and how everything is developed, most of the banks, the 3 banks that we do work with, use an electronic program system called DocuSign, which allows us to upload paperwork and signatures. Everything is done online and electronically. So in terms of paperwork, it's very simple and it's very fast. So a client would need to provide basic FICA. So that is always a standard. When you're moving money out of SA, just something I should mention as well. If you're still using your SA residency and using the allowances, so the 1 million and the 10 million, to get funds out, SARS and the Reserve Bank. So the Reserve Bank would then mean all banks would need to see a copy of your SA ID book. They don't allow passports as proof of identification in terms of an exchange control transaction, because they need to determine, do you fall under the SA residency allowances, or are you a non-resident or someone that has previously immigrated? Then the rules are different and different rules apply and different amounts are allowed to be sent. So just important, that's why I always stress the ID. So ID and proof of residence, no older than 3 months, and tax numbers in South Africa, and then if the client does have a Australian tax numbers, ATO number, if they've issued that. I know it does take quite a bit of time in Australia to receive your Australian Tax Authority tax number and residency state certificate. So I try and advise clients to just always do that as soon as they possibly can, according to their visa, when they enter Australia, is to apply for that the next day. So we go into your bank.
Tax file number very quick in Australia. It's a very
just get it, yeah, just get it done, because to get the residency certificate, we've seen it can take about 21 days, and that sometimes we need that on the SA side to set up some of these accounts, depending on what the client is moving the funds for or where the funds are from. But for an estate, so if there's inheritance, and for your retirement annuity, it would be your retirement annuity documents. We would go to SARS to do the immigration PIN for you to have your RA funds. But in terms of setting up the account, it really is FICA, so proof of address, ID, your tax details in both countries, or at least one of them. And then through the DocuSign system, the client would receive a link, which will also be linked to an OTP, which you can receive in the foreign country. And then you complete those online. It won't even take you 5 minutes. And then a couple of hours later, the bank would issue you a welcome letter, and the account would be set up and ready to go. So that would be then sent to the, if it needs to go to the insurance companies. So let's say you have an RA with Sanlam and Old Mutual, we would make sure they have those details, so they would then pay the proceeds or the pension over as soon as their side of the process has been dealt with. And then that money is then held in an account in your name in SA. It does an interest as well, which is also a good thing to mention. You will earn a minimum of 7% throughout the 3 banks with where our interest is at the moment. You know, so if you're looking at funds that you can leave here while the rand isn't strong, earning 7%, you know, it's at least your money isn't lying dormant in the account of the executor or with the insurance company. So you can start earning on your funds as soon as it comes through, but you said you need to do the trade-off between the forex, the gains that you will make on the rate if you were to transfer your rands to dollars, or leaving it in SA for a few months, earning 7%, and then, you know, targeting the rate and then actioning it when it's best levels, basically.
And what is the process for financial immigration? I know, as you said, it changed fairly recently to become, as we say in Australia, bigger than Ben-Hur, which just means it's become this whole big process. What's involved with that process, Tanya? And when do you suggest is the ideal time for somebody to do their financial immigration when they decide to leave South Africa permanently?
Yes, so that is a process that actually only starts once you've settled in Australia and you have obviously received your permanent residency, and you have been 3 consecutive years tax resident in Australia. So the reason for this, if there's a retirement annuity in SA that you need to have paid out prior to retirement when you immigrate, SARS won't allow the application for your RA withdrawal to be processed if you can't show proof that you've been in that overseas country for 3 consecutive years as a tax resident. So you can be a digital nomad and fly all over the world and work from anywhere, but your tax residency in the country outside of SA needs to be consecutive for 3 years. Then they will allow you to apply for early withdrawal of your RAs. And then there's a second condition. That RA needs to be at least 5 years old in order. So it has to be both. It can't be one or the other. But again, that is only for pre-retirement. All right, so if you've been outside, you can provide so your tax residency and your ATO paper will show the first or the inception date of you becoming tax resident. Process would be similar to getting the funds out under your 10 million. So we go to SARS and we provide them with all the paperwork. but instead of telling them that you are still staying as a resident, we are changing your status to non-tax resident in SA. So there's no need to worry about doing returns anymore. SARS would basically make you would still be an active taxpayer, but you basically become a dormant taxpayer, and there's no liability on you because all your assets would have then left SA technically after your RA, mostly after your RA has left. So SARS would then, based on your RA, issue the immigration PIN that we would then use to set up the account as well, but that all takes place at the same time. So between the insurance company and SARS, that process takes about 6 to 8 weeks. But then in the background, we would then be busy with setting up the account with the bank, being the facilitator between SARS and the insurance company. And once we have the PIN, insurance company pays out again, and the funds can then either stay in SA or leave. And that would be similar to the inheritance process. So again, depending if you have ever formally immigrated previously, or if you decide to go through that process now, which they are now, and it's called a tax exit. So they've made it easier. I have to be honest, it's probably shaved off about 3 months on the whole process. It used to take about 5 to 6 months. It was very lengthy because everything you had step one, then we had to wait for SARS, and then we were only able to go with the process. But now we can sort of try and do everything at the same time. So if everything goes well, 2.5, 3 months. Really, yeah, it does. And the client really doesn't have to do anything. The paperwork everything is done electronically. There's 2 documents from SARS, the only 2 documents that the client would ever need to print out and sign. So it's very simple, and they've streamlined the process, and we handle everything for you from the side. So you don't have to speak to Sanlam, you don't have to speak to SARS, you don't have to book an appointment with anyone. It's all done under one umbrella, and we just managing it and making sure everything is done, obviously according to their timelines as well.
That's great. It provides such a relief for people like us on this side who go, how am I going to deal with SARS from Australia? I left the place because I didn't want to deal with difficult processes and long waiting times, and now I'm back and having to do that again, and my hands feel off because I'm in another country now. So it is a little bit frustrating. Yeah. It's great that you guys are able to provide those services. Tell us how the difference, or what the difference would be between using a company like Secure FX versus using a traditional bank.
Yeah, so I think let's start on the admin side. So as I mentioned, with exchange control and the Reserve Bank having these strict regulations in place throughout all the banks, and then including companies such as ourselves, which are intermediaries of these various banks. So we basically become an extension of the bank's foreign exchange division to try and help specific individuals, where the banks are obviously more focused on the existing clients and the walk-in clients. We become an extension of that. So in terms of paperwork and compliance and just basic due diligence that the bank would always do on a client, we follow the same process, we follow the same rules. I think in some cases we have to follow stricter rules, as our intermediary license, as far as that goes with the bank. At least it gives us and the bank and the client also a second layer of security and verification in all processes, so that it's not always just, I know some clients do get frustrated, but it also allows for us as an intermediary and the bank to do some extra verification and checking on where a client's funds are going to. I mean, a lot of people are still scammed. People fall into these horrible scams. So all in all, having an extra person or an extra body there to look after that, it doesn't make the paperwork harder. It just makes it easier because we handle the whole process. But definitely in terms of time to trade and the cost to trade and your actual rate of exchange and the rate that you pay at the banks versus what you pay with money transferring businesses, obviously due to the bulk, the high volume that we do on a daily basis for clients and the business that we bring to the bank and the role that we play, the margins of the exchange rates that they offer us is extremely competitive. So we are in a position to pass that on to the client very easily. You know, we are a business with one office, with our staff, with our direct and indirect costs, and our turnover and our overheads are quite fixed and set. Where with the banks, they have a minimum margin that they need to make on certain transactions and foreign exchange transactions. So there isn't a lot of room to negotiate your rate when you are doing a transaction with your bank. Let's say you're doing a transaction for 100,000 Rand and converting that to Aussie dollars. The market today is about 12.28 to the Rand, or to the dollar. The bank would give you a rate, and you basically just have to accept that rate, which can usually be anything between 2 to 3% spread. So that's the cost that you basically pay, what you're paying more for the rands for the dollars than what the market suggests. And then the fees as well. So the bank would have all the banks have their minimum fees depending on the type of client that you are with them. So in the end, you're looking at our fee is a flat 250 Rand fee per Forex trade that you do. That is a bank fee that goes off your bank statement that you can see as well on your transactions. And then on the trade rate, we charge a maximum of 1% of the margin. So if let's say the dollar is 12 Rand 30 today, that would be, I would charge the client approximately 12 Rand 41. Those 11 or 12 cents works out to about 1%. So that compare that to the bank, let's just they did a 2% quote for the client, then the client would be paying about 12 Rand 56. So you go from a 12 or 30 where the market is, that is what you see on the news and on XE and on all the websites. You start off with a 12 Rand 30 and then you end up paying for a 26 or 30 cents more, where with us, there's a cap by the bank. I can never charge you more than that. So it's also very transparent. The client will receive a deal ticket showing exactly how much we as the intermediary made off the transaction as a outsourcer's fee. So the transparency is very important and full disclosure. Where with the bank, they would just do your trade anytime during that day when the market is at its lowest, but they will still sell it to you at that higher rate that they quoted. And I mean, banks are great. I work with them. We need them. They provide a very important vehicle in the whole process. But when it comes to your bottom line, why would you want to pay more for something? If you've got two stores next to each other and the one can do everything online for you at 2 or 3% cheaper, then it really is a no-brainer. And just the ease of doing business, I think, with companies such as ourselves, we specialize in specific little niches within the individual and corporate FX exchange control platform in SA or environment. And dealing with someone on the banking side, you need to have someone that knows this. Otherwise, again, you'll be running around and you'll be wasting time, and Murphy's Law, the Rand will just plummet, and by the time that you have your paperwork, you're paying 12 Rand 80 for the dollar, for instance. So
that's a lot.
Small few cents, it really does add up at the end of the day. You're already paying so much to get yourself over to Australia, and there's so much emotional cost involved as well. It really does. And we try and obviously gauge a client's sort of risk appetite website, even though we don't try and ever, I won't push you in a direction to do a transaction, because it really is, it's easier for me to predict the Wallabies and Bokke score for the World Cup than it's going to be for me to predict the Aussie dollar next week.
I'm looking forward
Really,
to predictions. So give
put
me
my
your
money on
prediction.
the game.
Well, this episode
But,
will probably air after the rugby game. So let's get your prediction, because by the time
I think
we'll watch
yes.
it, they will know whether you were right or wrong. What do you reckon, Tanya?
Crystal ball.
What do you think is the score going to be?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe let's go for 15-12. I have to give that score. Bokke. I have to go Bokke.
Of course you will. I'll take you on that one. I'll swap it around and I'll say Wallabies.
Okay, let's do it.
And when you come to Australia, hopefully soon, whoever
Yes.
wins,
I can't
or if
wait.
I come to South Africa, we'll buy the other one a glass of wine.
Yes, and we'll swap shirts, rugby shirts.
I can do that. I can do that. I'm lucky I can play it both ways, because I'm both Australian and South African, even though I don't have citizenship anymore in South Africa. I was born there, and I speak the language. Afrikaans is my taal. So
yeah, that's amazing. The Afrikaans, that's something when I speak to clients on that side, as soon as they hear that I'm Afrikaans, especially couples that's been there for many, many years, that all their friends are English, but they still obviously, I'm sure at home they still speak Afrikaans to each other wherever they are in Perth, but then they're so excited to speak to someone that's Afrikaans. I think that's also a big factor that helps, because there's so many South Africans going to Australia specifically, and the way the banking system works and the way I was taught from ABSA days, everything. I think it's a good fit sometimes, where instead of having to pick up the phone and call a call center with a bank, or having to do everything online and there's no interaction or no person there, it does get a bit lost in translation, I guess, actually, for clients. So that's the emotional side that I think is good. That's helped us also build a big network of clients and service providers such as yourself as well, that just sort of, there's quite a few things that needs to be done when you leave, and even when you get there. And I think just having a local group of ex-South Africans, maybe that gets it, does add some value.
Yes, absolutely.
Process. Yes.
There's a lot of changes, and if you can keep some of that old memories with you and hang on to those, it goes a long way in helping you settle into your new place. So thank you so much, Tanya. It's been lovely to talk to you and to learn all about this world of finances and immigration and annuities, and so much to take in. I'm sure anybody who needs to transfer money this way or that way, like into Australia or out of Australia, or out of South Africa and into South Africa, will probably want to watch this video at least twice, because there's a lot of information. But please tell us how they can reach out to you. How can they get in contact with you, Tanya?
Yes, so on all social platforms, I'm just Tanya van der Westhuizen .securefx, but you can pick me up on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm very active on WhatsApp as well, so correspondence with clients and short newsletters and market news that pops out. We're very happy to send those out. We see clients do like WhatsApp. It's just quick and easy, and Telegram. And then, yes, or just a phone call or my email address. And you can check out our website as well, which is just securefx.co.za.
That's right. And please make sure that you say that you heard about Tanya on Shamini TV, because she will take special care of you. Thank you so much again, Tanya. Appreciate your time. And
thank you so much.
Let's see who's going to be right for the prediction of that score. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait. Thank you.
Take care, Tanya.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode that I had with Tanya and that you've gained some valuable information. I'm sure if you are in the market for moving money around, then she is the person that you need to reach out to. As I said, you can find her on this link that's on your screen right now. You can go to our website and just click on I want to be in touch with somebody who can help me financially immigrate or move money around, and we will send her information straight to your inbox. Remember, if you would like to have a sponsored job and you want to come and live in Australia or New Zealand, because we've got some positions in New Zealand as well, then head to www.quackaroo.com and register your interest from that link, upload your CV, and then we will be in touch as soon as we have a matching position for you, my friend. You only have this one life. You deserve it to be a life of fairness, of freedom, and of opportunity. And if you want that, you need to come to Australia, my friend, or New Zealand, because this is where you will get those qualities. You only have this one life. Make it worth it. All right, my future Australian amigos. I'll see you next time. Adios.